For me, what Super Week means is to give people good games, like to show up good and don't let people think that we gave up or something. We want to show them that we're improving, and the relegation will be the final test.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to our final Super Week of the Spring Split. I'm Joe Miller, and I'm joined by Trevor Quickshot Henry. And before we head into our second half of the day, we want to remind you that immediately following the European LCS, we have a very special exhibition match lined up between TSM and Cloud9. But of course, right now it is time for Millennium to take on the Super Hot Crew. And while this is a battle between the bottom two teams in the European LCS, doesn't mean that there's not a lot on the line for both of these teams. Millennium, on one hand, need a win in this game to keep any playoff hopes alive, while the Super Hot Crew need to put a win on the board to reach the 11 wins of the Copenhagen Wolves and stay in the running for that crucial 6th spot and force a tiebreaker game at the end of the week.
Yeah, so for Millennium, due to the fact that they are staring down the barrel of a spot in the summer promotion tournament, every single match for them is literally do or die. If the Copenhagen Wolves win our last match of the day, Millennium will be out of the playoffs, and they need to turn their focus to practice, synergy, and teamwork in preparation for that promotion tournament. I want to look at KottenX from last week's games. He started for the first time in the LCS, and I feel like he did raise the level of play for Millennium, but it was far from being a game-changing level increase. As a team, they also opted to play some new champions. They were the first European team to play Xerath in the mid lane against Fnatic, and I actually don't think they played poorly with him, but they did get controlled by Fnatic's very, very strong map-based play. Fnatic secured 10 towers before winning the game, while Millennium only got 3. In addition, Fnatic secured 3 Barons, of which Millennium just couldn't contest at all.
And of course, the Super Hot Crew lost their game earlier today against Roccat. We all saw that one. And that means that Roccat, SK Gaming, Fnatic, and Alliance are in the playoffs. And for a chance to battle those opponents, the Super Hot Crew needs to secure a win here to get closer to the Wolves' record. Now, earlier today, Super Hot Crew ran Orianna in the mid lane as multiple mid lane bans in conjunction with that first pick Ryze really limited SELFIE's champion pool. It didn't really have a positive impact if you look at the bigger picture of that game.
No, unfortunately, SELFIE didn't have any position to do anything. And it wasn't only that he was in a poor performance. You can't put all of the blame on his shoulders. It just simply appeared that every single big battle, Roccat had better positioning, better decision-making, and better targeting. And the Super Hot Crew just couldn't handle those focused team fights and targeting from Roccat. So against Millennium, Super Hot Crew will need to ensure that they do not make the same positional mistakes if they want to come out ahead. In addition, they can't afford to hesitate around those objectives. If a fight is going to happen, start it on your terms. Don't wait for Roccat to jump in and then try to react.
We'll see if they can switch that one around for their second game of the day. Let's have a look at the starting lineups, though, first. On the blue side, it's Millennium, with Kevin in the top lane, KottenX in the jungle, Kerp in the mid lane, Creaton the AD carry, and Jree the support.
Yeah, and on the red side, the Super Hot Crew has the same lineup from their earlier match today. Mimer in the top lane, Impaler in the jungle, SELFIE in the mid lane, MrRalleZ and AD carry, and Mixer playing that support role.
So we're moving towards champion select here. Let's talk about what some of the contested bans and picks could be for this one, starting with the mid lane. We already kind of touched on it there that SELFIE has, had some troubles getting the champions that he wants, and even when, for example, he brought Ryze out a little bit earlier on in the season, just didn't look comfortable.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it wasn't his laning phase that was a problem on Ryze in particular. It was as the team moved over to the mid-game team fight, SELFIE just didn't have the best positioning with that champion. For this particular game, LeBlanc is not going to make it through, and if she does make it through bans, it will be first picked. Because Kerp loves LeBlanc, we know SELFIE loves LeBlanc. You've also got to consider the strength of Evelynn and Khazix in the jungle. We know that both KottenX and Impaler like to run those champions. So there is a fairly high priority on those particular picks. Earlier today, Roccat actually banned Lucian against MrRalleZ. I personally question that ban because I feel like MrRalleZ can do so well on multiple champions. But you know what? If you force his hand and you can predict what his next priority pick's going to be, why not play around it, play into your strengths?
Just a quick note, guys. Apparently, Kevin's not feeling too well at the moment, so we're just giving him a little bit of time to get things sorted out there, and hopefully he'll be up on the stage and in his position here shortly.
And it's a difficult position to be in. I mean, if Millennium lose this game, they are out of the playoffs. They are guaranteed a spot in that promotion tournament. Even if Millennium win the game, Their future is not even in their own hands. If Millennium go 4-0 this week, they are reliant on the Super Hot crew going 1-3, and they're reliant on the Copenhagen Wolves going 0-4 to force a tiebreaker. There is no feasible scenario where Millennium can make it into the playoffs without at least a tiebreaker match, assuming all of the stars align and Super Hot crew and Wolves give them the results they're looking for.
Yeah, that's the horrible thing, I think, for Millennium, but I have to say, at the same time, you've had 10 weeks coming up to this week. If you can't do it in those 10 weeks, then it can sometimes fall into these scenarios where it doesn't matter how well you play in a week, you can still end up having your fate decided by other teams. We've just seen Kevin there retake his seat here, so hopefully we'll be able to get into Champion Select in just a minute. And I'm assuming for Millennium, it's always hard to tell. They've had this roster change bringing in KottenX. You said it a little bit earlier on that he has improved the overall look for Millennium, but it's not improved it to a position where you'd say, wow, this is a different team with KottenX.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. If you look to, last week's matches where Millennium, they played Copenhagen Wolves, for example, they had moments that were good. In particular, the laning phase, they held even and actually had some positives. We've seen KottenX involved in a few kills with the likes of his Khazix and his Evelynn. But it didn't transition to mid-game power. And I think that is also a testament because of the team being so young. You've got a brand new player in there in such a crucial role like a jungler, and also replacing a player like Orianna, who is a loud voice in the team, who is a commanding voice in the team. It's difficult to readjust to a new guy, losing that sort of captain figure in-game. And that, to me, almost explains why the mid-game for Millennium is a little shakier, is a little weaker, because they don't have that very clear direction voice on the team, in my opinion.
And the timing as well. Obviously, coming in there, that change was brought in for week 10 out of an 11-week series that we've got going on, an 11-week league. You have to wonder, was that a little bit too late for them to make those changes, bringing in a new guy, and for them to really feel comfortable with KottenX there in that role? I suppose we'll never really know the answer to that one. We can only judge them on a week-by-week basis. We said it already that there was certainly an improvement for Millennium last week. There's got to be an improvement for Millennium this week, and even then, it's not all down to how they play, it's down to how other teams play.
So if we step back and we assume the most likely outcome is that Super Hot Crew and Millennium are realistically facing those promotion tournament positions. Teams ranked 7th and 8th go into the summer promo tournament in a couple of weeks' time. I think for a team like Millennium, they should be using the stage to settle the nerves of their players, coming to grips with the different scenarios you can face on the big stage. Because if you play with an assumption, look, best case scenario, we make a tiebreaker. Worst case scenario, well, we can't change that. So remove the pressure, remove the fear, the doubt. Just play to your team's strengths and try to discover the limits of your teammates, because it sets you up in a much better position, because one of these teams could be facing the likes of Ninjas in Pajamas or Cloud9, for example, from the challenger scene. And that is by no means an easy task either.
Well, the way things are going right now, it looks like maybe both of these teams could be facing the two that you mentioned earlier on. Obviously, there's still a lot to work out from that. For now, we're into Champion Select for Millennium versus the Super Hot Crew. I almost said the Copenhagen Wolves. They're coming up a little bit later on against Gambit, and, well, Millennium will be watching that match closely, that's for sure. Bans coming quickly. Yasuo and Lucian, the two first bans here for Millennium. Gragas and Ziggs over on the other side.
I wonder if Super Hot Crew are going to... I feel like both teams are trying to force their opponents to ban LeBlanc, because she's still up and available. We know that Millennium likes to run it. She's also a champion you can get away with first picking. It's something that is fairly safe in that mid lane, does well in multiple matchups. And the fact that it's still up, we'll have to see where they go. And there's your answer. Millennium finally deciding, look, take LeBlanc away. We don't want to first pick her. So that tells me Millennium's got another champion in mind that they put priority on. It could be a jungler like an Evelynn or a Khazix.
And if we look back to the last time that these two teams met, that the bans weren't too far away. Yasuo was taking out Gragas, Ziggs, champions which you would really expect to come out. Lulu there as well, the final ban for the Super Hot Crew. It's left Khazix open for the jungle. We've seen KottenX run it already. We've seen Impaler run it already. It's Millennium get their hands on it today.
Now with Renekton still available, you have to think that a Renekton Evelynn, or maybe even something like a Renekton Karma, could be some options here for the Super Hot Crew. Thresh is still up. We have not seen Mixer play much Thresh. Jree has played a fair amount of it, and Jree's had very hit-or-miss games. Against the Super Hot crew many weeks ago, Jree was part of the reason that Millennium destroyed that Super Hot crew. He landed so many death sentences. But then last week and the week before, Jree just wasn't having that sort of game-changing impact. So I want to see, in particular, what champion Jree is feeling comfortable on, because it could signal the initiation power that Millennium relies on.
I think Karma would be a safe bet here. If we look at the last 5 games for the Super Hot crew, they've had Karma in that support role out for 4 of those 5 games. So really a realistic, as I say that, they lock in the Thresh. Kind of obvious that was going to happen. Commentator's curse. They follow up that with a Caitlyn first pick as well.
So the question is now, what are they giving up? By putting so much priority on your duo lane, Super Hot crew must have some sort of counters in mind for a possible Renekton top lane, a possible Ryze mid lane. There's a lot of champions still available, and by locking in their duo, Super Hot crew is going to be banking on the fact that their duo lane can outplay Millennium's duo lane, or alternatively, because it's a Caitlyn Thresh, they could be looking for tower pushes early, putting themselves in a 2v1 and trying to force objective, rotate, objective. We just need to see how the rest of this picks and bans plays out though, because for the time being, Super Hot crew, they're just playing it very, very safe.
I wonder if that Ryze will end up with Kevin in the top lane or in the mid lane. A Renekton pickup wouldn't have even surprised me there if Kevin had decided, okay, we've got Khazix in the jungle, Ryze to that mid lane, let's take Renekton away from Mimer and see what they can throw at us. On the other side, the Super Hot crew now come down to their 3rd and 4th picks of this game. We'll see where they lay with that one. We talked about Renekton already. Pantheon, a champion which I would say turned around the season for the Super Hot crew. You know, that almost halfway point in the season when they start picking up a few wins, it was Pantheon that was really doing the work for them. I
completely agree with you. Impaler found a champion he could have a positive impact in the game on. And I think we're just going to have to go back to our original plan.
Yeah.
But, you know, one of the reasons to highlight Pantheon for Impaler is it was a champion that when Impaler started doing well, Super Hot crew started winning games. They would win the laning phase thanks to Impaler's assistance and Impaler's ganks. Now on a champion like Evelynn, it's a different style of gank, it's a different style of pressure, because it's the unknown that works in your favor. With Pantheon, it's very clear. You look for the big circle, whoever's inside of it gets stunned, and he relies on controlling zones by having teams overextended. Much the same like Evelynn. If a lane is pushed far towards Super Hot crew's towers, that is when and where Evelynn can gank from. And with Thresh, you've actually got a nice lantern gank opportunity, assuming Super Hot crew can have favorable lanes.
Well, Millennium's final 2 picks here were Sivir for the AD carry role to go with Jree's Leona, and Shyvana for the top lane here for Kevin. Going to be going up against Mimer's Renekton.
So what I like about Millennium's composition right now is they've got so much mobility, they've got engage, they've got wave clear. Depending on where the teleports are going to land, they're also going to have map presence. So I feel like Millennium has got an incredibly well-rounded composition. Every single one of their solo laners has high damage, and they scale very well. While Sivir's not going to offer the same amount of late game damage that a Caitlyn will, she's going to offer much more utility to the rest of her team. And when you've got Ryze, Shyvana, Sivir, and Khazix running around in your face, it makes things very difficult to deal with. The problem for Millennium, they can't afford to fall behind early. If they get shut down and they get controlled and forced to sit under their turrets, it's going to take a longer time for their champions to hit those power spikes and hit those power levels where they can force engagements on their own terms.
So final pick here then for Super Hot crew was in fact Orianna. Going to go in the mid lane here for SELFIE. And I already touched on that in the pre-game. He's going to have to make a bigger impact, or I think we can almost safely say any impact, because that's not what he had against Rocket earlier on. He needs to play well here.
Completely agree with you. This time round, there are similar champions to their previous game. They've got an Evelynn jungle once again. It's the same matchup that SELFIE played against Overpower on that Ryze, so there's going to be a little bit more experience. There is also safe wave clear. There is good engage from Super Hot crew. Nowhere near as effective as Millennium's hard engage though. So for Super Hot crew in the early game, they have stronger laning champions, and with the Evelynn ganks coming invisible, etc., in combination with their solo lanes, I feel like Super Hot crew need to make plays within the first 15 to 20 minutes of the game before Millennium get to that power level. And if Super Hot crew can win the early game, they have the ability and the expertise to close out the mid and late game. But I feel like if it goes even, advantage is heavily in favor of Millennium thanks to the scaling.
Well, very important game for both teams, and with that game ready to begin, let's see who you guys voted for in this one. According to LOLesports.com, you've picked the Super Hot crew by 64%. not a massive difference between these two teams. I think 64% is almost the least we could expect from this one. Millennium have not been able to really pick up wins lately, and the Super Hot Crew have had their moments where you've thought, are they turning the tables? You know what? Super Hot Crew pulled the game back last week from Gambit that they were down a Baron. They got caught down poorly, and they managed to win the game thanks to a late scaling composition. They've gone the inverse route this time. They've picked a early game composition. We need to see if they can make it work. So here we go then. In game, it is Millennium versus the Super Hot Crew. A very, very important clash for both teams. We mentioned it before. Not for Millennium in terms of their survival this year, but to make sure that they gather themselves as a team and really get working. They're also, we should point out here as we get into game, one of the teams that have constantly, throughout the European LCS Spring Split this year, been a bit funky at level 1 and tried some different things. Yeah, it hasn't worked out for the best in most scenarios, though. That's the other thing we have to call out. Millennium have tried things. They have tried roaming, they've tried invading for buffs, and it's never truly garnered them a large advantage. And one of the reasons I think it hasn't worked out, the game has sort of evolved past that point. Last year, level 1 buff invades and early lane advantages could determine the entire outcome of a game. Less so now in the 2014 season. So Millennium going for the defensive start this time around, and Super Hot Crew, they are the ones I'm expecting to make the first moves because of the champions they have in their favor, and because Impaler will be looking to roam and get in the faces of Shyvana and Ryze, who are going to have a difficult time in the early game anyway. Once again, we see a bit of a move from Millennium. Are they trying to force something here at level 1, or are they going to be putting in a lane swap? Shyvana's still on the top side, but both Jree and Creaton are headed up past the halfway point, and it looks like Millennium are going to go for an invade. It looks like it's going to be a straight buff trade, would be my instinct here. Because of Super Hot Crew's positioning on the bottom area of the map, they're going to be moving in together. You can see Mimer's backed away towards his red buff, which will allow him to back away safely if or when Millennium come in, and it is just going to be a delayed invade. So buff trades. The one thing I want to highlight right now, though, as and when engages happen, Millennium have 2 teleports on their side with both Ryze and Shyvana. So not only do they have champions that are weaker in lane, they're giving up the kill pressure as they're both going up against Ignites. What it does mean, though, the moment Impaler shows himself, if Millennium are on the ball, Kevin and Kerp could show up in a lane and destroy faces because of that additional global power that they bring. So we did see the lane swaps coming in. Millennium wanting this 2v1 on the top side. Jree and Creaton up against Mimer's Renekton. Not wanting to leave Kevin in that 1v1 scenario by the looks of it, or even have the danger of possibly being hooked in there and taken out early on by MrRalleZ and Mixer. So 2 reasons for the lane swap. As we've already mentioned, they don't want to put that Renekton versus Shyvana, who's going to be in a poor matchup. In addition, because they're facing off against Millennium, this is something that we say every single time we see an Evelynn. If you force a 2v1, it means Impaler has 2 options. He either goes for the level 3 tower dive, which is looking like he's about to do right now, or he defends with his top laner. We'll need to see if a death sentence can land from Mixer, because without the CC, there's not a lot of strong crowd control underneath this turret. So Mixer needs to connect with Kevin if they want to hold him in place long enough. With Burnout and Flash, Kevin, let's see, what did he actually level up at rank 1? He's got Flame Breath, so he doesn't have Burnout yet, which means he's a little easier to lock down. And he's going to face check straight in towards Impaler. This could force a flash from Kevin early on. We'll see about that when he does get behind the turret, being very, very patient there in terms of how he uses those summoner spells. But that turret is going to take a bit of a beating. Meanwhile, Millennium also have 3 men on the top side. That turret a little bit harder to take down, but they're doing a great job so far. It's actually very impressive from the side of Millennium because they've got the melee support, which means it's more difficult to get the tower. Remember, this is before 8 minutes, so this top tower has damage reduction from champion auto attacks. They trade roughly even, a couple seconds apart. The one thing you do need to highlight, Mimer was playing very, very smart, hiding just on the opposite side of the tree line in range of experience. So yes, he's 2 CS down on Kevin, but he's already hit level 2 and he's still in experience range. So yes, he's losing his towers, but he's making the best of a terrible situation. And we're going to see the inner turrets now being focused on by both teams. The Super Hot Crew having a good wave of minions. Kevin trying to get in range there to sort something out, but Millennium are going to be taking this turret quicker than what the Super Hot Crew can manage down on the bottom side. The question is now, Do they stop or do they keep going?
From what I've seen in the past, both teams will continue until the inhibitor turret, and if any team sticks around on the inhibitor turret, this is the point that now players begin to rotate. Remember, there is teleports on the side of Millennium, so if anybody wants to try catch them out, they'll be in trouble. Mimer trying to defend his top turret. You can see Super Hard Crew not on the turret yet, so they need to back away. These are the turrets teams defend. And it's an interesting setup. This is something we see from OGN, we've been seeing it from North America, and I always find it's a very explosive start to the game. Attacks, but it ends up delaying the laning phase because now it's so risky to invade further.
Oh, SELFIE gonna get jumped on here. He's level 5, got no mana. Well, did have enough there for the command protect. Also had a flash if he really needed to jump away to safety there, but nice positioning, moving through the enemy jungle there. Did KottenX, and actually Kerp gonna go aggressive on towards SELFIE once again. Here comes Leona. There's a flash away from the Zenith play.
Yeah, manages to avoid that crowd control. Had Jree actually connected, that would have been a dead SELFIE and first blood given up. To go back to the map presence point now, both of these teams are most likely going to set their dual lanes against their dual lanes and their top against their top. And because of the teleports on Millennium, if they push a lane, they will have the advantage at continually sieging and pushing down towers. However, Super Hard Crew, on the other hand, have the factor of Evelynn that needs to be considered. So Millennium need to be decisive in their play or run the risk of getting caught out. As it stands, Millennium onto the first dragon.
Well, if you want to talk about decisive, this certainly looks like it for me. We are going to see Millennium starting off the dragon, but the Super Hard Crew aren't messing around. Flash play in there from Mixer, and KottenX going to go low. First blood comes in from Mixer. Don't think he's going to get away. That leaves us at 1-for-1 with the dragon. Still hitting Millennium, and Impaler will pick himself up another one. Can he get away though? He has to turn around, dodges the boomerang. The rest of the Super Hard Crew coming close, but didn't have the damage to finish anymore.
2-for-1 in favor of the Super Hard Crew. Millennium just didn't have the damage to burn that dragon down quickly enough. So the dragon was the extra member of Super Hard Crew who was continually landing attacks onto the Millennium members. They gave up those kills. First blood was secured by Mixer, so at the very least he's going to have a decent gold boost, and the dragon was not secured. So advantage to the Super Hard Crew as they defended that objective and got themselves kills as well.
Very, very interesting start to this one. We could see there in the mid lane, a lane which, despite those couple of little pushes earlier on and the flash from SELFIE, has been relatively quiet. Both players having equal CS there, 42 to 43, slightly in favor of SELFIE, who now has himself that chalice and boots, and obviously Kerp working his way. Picked up that catalyst first of all with the boots as well. We'll see where he heads next. Gonna have to get started in the tier stacking as well.
Yeah, so talking about the build from Kerp, Defricio and I had a lengthy argument about the decision making of going catalyst before tier. And what it ends up doing is it delays your fully stacked tier by about 5 minutes. So you're only going to get that bonus 750 mana at around 30 minutes as opposed to 25. Now, you could theorize that with Catalyst going Rod of Ages, you're going to have more ability power and HP, making you a little bit of a tankier frontline, but you delay your damage burst. And when I look at a Khazix and a Shyvana, I feel like you don't need to be as tanky on Ryze. We'll get to that in a second. Can the hook land? That's the question.
Is he going to throw the hook? That was the question to ask before that, and he didn't throw it, so no, it can't land. And now we see the Super Hard Crew with that numbers advantage, all of them down the bottom, starting off the dragon. We've already seen it being a death trap so far.
There is a teleport up for Kevin, so we'll see if he decides to use it. That is a channel. Here comes Millennium.
Here comes the teleport, and it is going to be taken down, actually picked up in the end by SELFIE, but they've already lost one man. There's KottenX taking down Impaler, but KottenX himself has already gone down. Mixer will fall. Kerp picks up that kill, but look at Creaton and Jree. They're getting hammered at the backside, and that is going to be another kill for the Super Hard Crew. Can they get in towards Kerp? I don't think so. He's got those boots on already, and that in the end will be a 3-4-1.
If Mimer was not there in time, that could have been so much different. Mimer with Dominus and Cull the Meek was just destroying members of Millennium. It ends up meaning Super Hard Crew get more kills and the dragon. Basically, as this fight breaks out, you notice on the minimap, Mimer is right there. This is a 5-man Super Hard Crew that a split Millennium are trying to get involved in. Because Kerp is not with the rest of his team with Kevin, Jree, and Creaton. He's trying to zone out members of Super Hard Crew. All of his damage was focused elsewhere, was focused on members who didn't have a massive impact on this fight. A very good play there from Mixer, holds people in place, and at the end of the day, because Mimer was in the middle with Dominus the entire time, he was a massive determining factor in why that team fight went so well for the Super Hard Crew.
And it was, of course, a 3-for-2 in the end. I told a couple of porkies in that one, but still a win for the Super Hot Crew nonetheless, taking the Dragon as well. Leaves them 2,000 gold and even a little bit more than 2,000 gold in the lead. The question now is, how are Millennium going to be moving around the map? We can see already that Mixer and MrRalleZ are coming to middle. Millennium have to move to defend this.
Yeah, I'd like to see Super Hot Crew using Orianna to zone members of Millennium away from the turrets, and then using the range of Caitlyn to melt those towers down. There's not a lot of auto attack damage on the side of MrRalleZ. He's currently only got that Vamp Scepter so far, so we'll see how quickly they can take those tower down. In the top lane, they're going to be diving Kevin. This is going to be hard.
Oh, this could be bad news for Kevin. Mimer is 2 levels above him. Impaler does come around, but Kevin did have his flash and is able to get away. Meanwhile, Teleport coming in, and we are going to see Kevin coming around. KottenX is joining in as well. Impaler, the squishy target here, will actually flash over the wall. KottenX now finding himself a little bit isolated from the rest of his team. Kerp doesn't have the damage to burst down Mimer. In the end, they can walk off, but they might rotate and have this middle turret. I
like the thinking from Super Hot Crew. Generally, with so many towers down, teams play passively, and they just farm themselves into the late game. Super Hot Crew are trying to force their hand, diving Millennium under the turret with Evelynn. Because of the positional advantage that they've gained from that top lane dive, it has allowed them to get onto this mid-outer turret. There was no teleports for Millennium. They've been burned in the previous fights, and it means Super Hot Crew grabbed their third and last outer turret away from Millennium.
Nicely done, and let's have a look down some of the CS here as things, hopefully for the Millennium at least, calm down and allow them to farm, because Kevin is currently quite a chunk behind, although we consider he's having some free time up now in that top lane. 62 to 50 CS on that front. Mid lane 73 to 70, so they're keeping fairly even. In fact, we do see that SELFIE slightly ahead because of that global gold, but the 2 kills for Kerp really keeping him in that matchup.
Yeah, every single member of Super Hot Crew with a kill on the board right now. So going to be using that gold to get themselves as much of an item advantage as possible. And I like the decisive play from the Super Hot Crew. As we talked about, their composition is earlier focused than that of Millennium. So in order to remain relevant as the game scales on in time and in items, the Super Hot Crew have to have a gold lead. If they are not ahead, then their composition is just going to be outscaled by that of Millennium's. With all 3 outer turrets down, Super Hot Crew now need to invest a lot of vision in the jungle of Millennium to continue sieging those inner turrets and prevent being flanked by Shyvana and Khazix respectively.
And I like the fact that they got rid of that pink wall there. It's going to allow Impaler a little bit more freedom to roam around the Millennium jungle, and also not Millennium really been able to defend quite as well. And speaking of defenses, SELFIE and Mixer are moving in. They've got MrRalleZ there with them as well. Only Kerp there for now. KottenX will come around, but this turret already going to take a lot of damage.
So much damage from the Super Hot Crew that's unanswered. Creaton is trying to push the bottom lane of the minions. There's no teleport from Kevin, so he can't respond. And that was a very smart play from Super Hot Crew because they knew Millennium couldn't respond. It was going to take a large investment of players from Millennium to interrupt that defense, and at the end of the day, Super Hot Crew grab 50% of the inner turret's HP down. If they manage to get the same position in the next few minutes, it will secure that tower.
And they need to move here, Millennium, to defend that top outer turret. In fact, the final outer turret left on the map. Kevin going to show himself, and, well, he won't really be able to do anything about this one. He's going to get zoned away, but the rest of Millennium start to come around. They found Mixer in the middle of nowhere. Jree actually missing the Zenith blade. He's going to throw down his ultimate, and there is the kill, but the shockwave lands as well. Jree now going to be the focus target as he flashes away to the back. KottenX moving in. They've got the rest of the team closing around, and Impaler is going to fall. Creaton gets that one. SELFIE gets locked up once again. KottenX gets that kill. That's a 3-for-0, and the tower lives.
Millennium had that great counterplay. Super Hot Crew trying to force down their top turret, and Mixer was way out of position. He should not have been caught in the river. He was late to the tower push, and what that meant is the Millennium members coming in to try and surround Super Hot Crew just caught him out, focused him down one by one. What I liked was KottenX diving to the backline and focusing down SELFIE. You've seen a very clear focus that KottenX wanted to get SELFIE as low and as away from the fight as possible, while the rest of the Millennium squad stuck with the higher clump numbers of the Super Hot Crew.
Kerp trying to get himself a bit of a lead going on farm. It's the top lane that Mimer is really running rings in terms of farm over Kevin. But look at the timer in the top left. Dragon is coming up in just a couple of seconds. Mimer's already started to move down there. There are a lot of wards being put down from the backside from Millennium. They've got one inside of the Dragon pit itself, so they're going to see SELFIE and Impaler doing the Dragon.
Now we need to get MrRalleZ onto this Dragon to get through quickly enough. Millennium have got to engage quickly if they want to start a fight. They're going for the surround. Dragon's low.
Oh, I think they're going to have to give this one up. Yes, they are. The Super Hot crew take that one. Smited down in the end by Impaler, and Millennium just weren't quick enough to react there. The
moment to engage was that those last few seconds. As we stopped, taking a look at it, Shyvana had the ability to jump in. Actually, didn't have Dragon's Descent. And I think because Dragon's Descent was not available and Ryze wasn't close enough, that split sort of pincer engage from Millennium was just a little bit too risky. So at the end of the day, they play it safe. Probably the smart decision, because as far as global gold is concerned, they're not that far behind. It is 1,500, but they've held onto this top outer turret. They've been keeping relatively even in most of the lanes, so you've got to give them credit for that one. It's only Kevin that's hurting a little bit for gold.
And now Mimer may get closed in on him if he's not careful there. In fact, Sivir and Leona coming in, and SELFIE going to get jumped on, using a good shockwave, and now the rest of the team starting to move in. Let's say the rest of the team, it's just Mixer, but his presence was enough to force him away. MrRalleZ here, can they land everything onto him? They have landed literally everything onto MrRalleZ. You don't escape that kind of lockup.
That one hurt just a little bit. It's not over, it's now KottenX, it's found Mixer.
All the other way around even. KottenX getting a little bit low, and already Kevin was struggling on HP, and with SELFIE being there as well, they didn't want to risk that one as Mimer and Creaton butt heads in this top lane. Creaton trying to keep that wave as far away from the turret as possible, doesn't want to fall back to it knowing exactly how low that one is. It leaves Millennium 7-5 up in kills, 3-2 still the leading turrets for the Super Hot crew, with the Dragons in their favor as well. Only equates to 1,000 gold right now.
So the Super Hot crew, they lost members in the top lane when they tried to push the tower down. They didn't have vision in the river, and they didn't have the greatest vision of Millennium's blue buff jungle, so they got surrounded. A few seconds ago, we see MrRalleZ being taken down in the mid lane. If you look at the wards for Super Hot crew, they've got the entrances to the river, as well as that mid lane warded up, but with a Boots of Mobility Leona, you don't have enough time to get away safely from the range of Solar Flare. So I feel like Super Hot crew need to get more wards in the river to ensure that they don't get caught up, that they don't get flanked by the members of Millennium, who have done this now, repeatedly. They tried it in the Dragon Pit. If you cast your mind back, we did see multiple members of Millennium, one from the top, one from below. So if we get more vision in this river, it's going to give Super Hot crew more information to work with. And I don't think they've got enough wards, so we'll see if they rectify that.
Let's peek at some of the items here now as well. Ryze, we mentioned his build earlier on. When that Catalyst before the tier, he's had his Rod of Ages, and that tier now stacking up for a while, and I'm assuming got a decent amount of gold. Yeah, 1,500 gold he's currently sat on, so he'll be able to go home and buy himself up soon. And on the other side, SELFIE himself has 1,300 gold that he's been saving up there as well. Kerp, in the meantime, does have that blue buff with him. Also want to take a bit of a look at the AD carries, because we see 104 there in overall for Creaton, 131 to 127 CS. That's MrRalleZ actually bringing things back somewhat, but because of that global gold, there's a 600 gold lead for MrRalleZ on Caitlyn. Both of them have a Bloodthirster right now with those Berserker Greaves in there.
Yeah, at this point in time, Creaton is going to be in a better position despite being down on gold. Because of the power of Sivir's ultimate that will synergize with the rest of Millennium's composition, you get a lot of unaccounted for gold value in that utility stats. On a champion like Caitlyn, it's something that you see many times. When Caitlyn's got a Bloodthirster and a Zeal or Static Shiv, Phantom Monster for example, she's pretty good at clearing waves, not that great at killing tanks. She needs to get to the 4-5 item build, and for that, Super Hot crew need to give him either more kills or more farm. We do see in the bottom lane, MrRalleZ, I think he's going to die.
Well, he might not get either of them here, as everything again he's thrown at MrRalleZ. I don't see him escaping it either. Jree's actually tanking up a lot of damage. He's going to go down. Poorly executed there. Not sure why he didn't go topside. Meanwhile, Creaton being Dofia in the top lane as well. Mimer going to take a lot of damage, but there's a double teleport once again. Kerp comes flying out with that own gun. Impaler takes a lot of damage, but there's the shockwave. It's been turned around. The shutdown comes in, and now they're going back in for Creaton. Mimer goes a little bit too far, has to flash out. What a turnaround.
Yeah, at the end of the day, Super Hot crew were backing away quickly enough to negate the power of those teleports. KottenX fancies a chance. He's coming in with Khazix from the side. We'll see if Millennium can make anything happen. They've got a lot of distance to cover.
Miner's low, but I don't think low enough now. And we saw that KottenX didn't really fancy that one. That puts Millennium 8-7 up now in kills. Gold is still not that much of a difference, and with that last fight and the different items that we've seen coming in, there's a Zeal now for Creaton. We can see that the Archangel staff was completed by Kerp despite not being fully stacked just yet. They may feel strong enough to fight now when this next dragon comes up in a minute.
I like the fact that Kerp has finished that Archangel staff quite early. It's currently got 400 mana out of the potential 750. He is at the 20-minute mark, but because he's upgraded it a little bit earlier, it is going to stack faster. So we may see Kerp still hitting that, 25-minute power spike. And with the teleport, when Kerp decides to go for those teleport ganks, we've seen Ryzes with teleport and home guard boots motoring after that TP finishes to lock somebody up and blow them up. I am expecting a similar thing from Kerp. The one thing you do have to highlight, that was a double teleport top lane that didn't actually garner Millennium a massive advantage. They held onto the turret. I think that's very crucial to admit. They gave up a kill, but they held onto the turret. So they haven't opened up the complete top half of their map for Super Haku to invade and roam around. And that's the third attempt, I think I'm going to say, that Super Haku have made for that turret and have not succeeded in taking it down.
Yeah, and I just noticed when I said they're running out here with the home guards going, that was just Kerp with his ulti going and the ultimate from Creaton as well that gave him that speed. So we'll see, imagine how that's going to be a little bit later on should they get involved. Dragon has now spawned. We've seen a few wards being cleared out. Super Haku got positional advantage for now.
Super Haku do not want to get caught by a multi-man solar flare because that is going to be a very powerful locker. Mimer's miles away. Millennium have got it.
Oh, the shockwave was absolutely horrible as well from SELFIE. Didn't get anyone, and now KottenX and Kevin are in there. SELFIE's going to go down. MrRalleZ gets locked up. This is 2 kills coming in for Millennium, and they're not done just yet. The Zenith blade doesn't quite land, but Mixer's running into no man's land here. Creaton will get that one. That's 3 for basically no health even from Millennium. They're going to get their first dragon of the game.
You cannot afford to go for a pincer engage against a team with Sivir and Shyvana and Khazix. The moment you show that your forces are split, Millennium are going to pick one target and run you down. Mimer was in the middle lane. Now look at the positioning on the minimap. Mimer is 1.5 miles away from this engage. The shockwave may have bought some time, but the fact that it hit no one means that Super Haku are in an even worse position. The very mobile, fast-moving members of Millennium just run down the high-priority targets. You've got an AD carry and an AP carry alone. They've got no one to peel for them. They've got no one to protect them. And Millennium just pick up easy kills, running down Mixer, grabbing the dragon, and a bunch of towers. Now MrRalleZ is going to die.
Oh, MrRalleZ once again caught out. Actually, KottenX may die. No, he is not. He's got a charge on his ultimate there. That will get him, at least for now, into safety, but the rest of the Super Hawk crew are closing in. KottenX actually going to flash away from this, and somehow Millennium are turning this one back around. There's a good shockwave finally coming out of SELFIE. Kerp will fall to that one, and they did manage to get KottenX in the end.
Now Millennium playing a little bit over-aggressive. I don't think they needed to be that deep. They got some towers and some kills. Mimer's not done yet. He doesn't have flash available. I don't think he's going to catch them, but it's not going to stop him trying. Now Burnout's going to make sure that ends the chase. But at the end of the day, Millennium sticking around a little too over-aggressive. Mimer's not stopping. Well, no, he is. And I think that the Archangel Staff plus Rod of Ages has given Kerp some confidence on that champion, and you see how much damage Ryze already has. That is just going to keep scaling and keep growing.
What my fear for this game is that we've seen that those last 2 fights, that twice we saw them making rough decisions in terms of what they're going to do. Jree is completely out of position here. We'll throw the solar flare down, but we'll see if anyone can actually get in. Kerp's going to come around the side. He does blow up Mixer, but I think he might end up falling himself for it. SELFIE now going to be focused. Creaton running right in the back. Impaler actually off inside of the Dragon Pit, and with Kevin and Creaton chasing down Mimer, I'm not sure that he'll be able to get off. Uses the slice and then the dive. That's a good slope from MrRalleZ, but here comes KottenX on the side. Can he now get MrRalleZ? He flashes away, but KottenX got the speed boost there as he goes invisible once again. The slow's enough to get him the double.
4 kills, all thanks to Jree holding members of Super Haku in place. Yes, Jree gave up his life. Maybe it's a little bit overkill, but his death allowed the rest of Super Haku to stay there long enough for Millennium to just completely surround them. Both teleports were burned on that engage, and Millennium grabbed themselves more kills. It's now 16-11. This is the bloodiest game in the LCS that we've seen in a while, because both teams just keep going at it. I think when you consider both of these teams are facing promotion tournament, there's less pressure to play perfectly, and they're just playing uninhibited, very aggressive, trying to force objectives and force themselves into a powerful position.
And that can also come back to bite you. We'll see if Millennium can really do something that they've struggled, which is having a lead, keeping the lead, number one, and not making mistakes so that you end up losing it, and then trying to close out games. That's not been the strong point for Millennium so far this year. Right now, they have about a 1,500 gold lead, and they're going to be maybe faced with a face check scenario where they have to go towards Baron. We can see that the backside was cleared out. Actually, Millennium are already there using those sweepers to clear out and actually do what I would say is the smart thing here and move straight up the middle. SELFIE caught out completely, and that is Creaton getting the kill for free.
Yeah, in a turret now available. Solar Flare was used, so at the very least that hard engage isn't there, but Millennium will be happy with this. Going to continue the push, knowing that SELFIE's not there. Remember, Shockwave is available, so if SELFIE can lock up members of Millennium, that could be their way in. Actually, that's their only way in. Rest of Millennium, they're now on the inhibitor turrets.
And SELFIE's dead, so that's not their way in for a while here. They need him to respawn, as Kevin says, okay, I'll tank it up. And the rest of the team don't quite realize that that was going to happen, and he just takes a free turret hit. We'll see if they want to push in from this one. There's Dragon coming up in 2 minutes, and damage, the wave clear coming out there for Millennium allows them to get another hit or two off on towards the turret, but we see they've backed away now. They want to get some vision control over this bottom side of the Super Hot Crew jungle.
The moment you take that inner turret and you have free access on this part of the jungle, the smart decision is to ward it up. Kerp has thrown down his ultimate, he's going for Mimer.
Be able to lock him up though. That's the tanking man as Mixer going to get caught in the shockwave. Only brought Jree into the fight there. SELFIE going low. KottenX actually diving to him. Mimer doing good interference work actually in the middle of the fight. But he is going to go down in the end, and that will be a 1-for-1. KottenX also took away the blue.
Yeah, he did steal that objective just before the fight broke out. Off screen, we also see Mixer picking up a kill on Jree. Now, because Millennium have got that tanky top laner down from the Super Hot Crew, they're on the inner bottom turret. This is going to be the 6th tower of the game. Super Hot Crew are going to try to defend, but they could get turned on.
Impaler actually coming flaring out of the base there with MrRalleZ, but they've turned around Mixer. I didn't even realize that Mixer was there, and I don't think the rest of his team were really coordinated on that one.
So, as an aside, as we've got a little bit of time, Mixer has been very outspoken in the recent weeks, saying how he's on track to break Kiwi Kid's all-time death record for the LCS. We'll get to those numbers in a second, as this is going to be Mixer just getting popped from the side. This is a perfect replay to highlight my point. At 6 deaths in this game, Mixer currently has 111 deaths this split. The record is 126 deaths by Kiwi Kid as a top laner in North America. If Mixer picks up 1 more death this game, he is on par with the per game averages to tie that record. For Mixer to truly go above and beyond and claim the undisputed title as most killed pro in the LCS, he needs to break that average of 7 deaths per game.
Well, we're 27 minutes in. Something tells me that's not his last death that we've just seen there. But they may go and prove me wrong. Right now, one thing's for sure is that they're losing another Dragon. Millennium's going to destroy that one without any contest at all from the Super Hot Crew. That's their 2nd out of 4. So 50-50 on the Dragons. Millennium having the last 2. Dragon worth more as we go along. Definite advantage for Millennium.
So Millennium now need to play the ward game and pull Super Hot Crew towards them. If Millennium try to bait out a Baron, you can force Super Hot Crew's hand to engage on you. And with Shyvana as well as Khazix and Leona that can jump over the wall, and a pretty good range on spells from Ryze and Sivir, if anyone checks that wall by the Baron Pit, Millennium can actually blow them up very, very effectively. The question is, what does Super Hot Crew do to defend this siege? There's 6,000 gold down on a composition that gets outscaled. So the only way for them to break that gold lead and bring themselves back into the game is to catch members of Millennium out and blow them up quickly. They need an ace in the hole into Shockwave to remove a Sivir, a Khazix, or a Ryze before they can continue fighting.
Oh, Mixer getting a little bit close there, actually just spotting Kerp as he comes around, and KottenX actually waiting off to the side. That's something I have to give him real credit for so far, as actually they're going to go in for this one. Kerp going to get Shockwave, actually caught 2 of them. This could be a decent fight for the Super Hot Crew, but actually they're falling quickly. Mimer goes down, and there is a Millennium bug at the back. taking down Evelynn. MrRalleZ is going to fall as well. That will be a 4-for-2 in favor of Millennium. KottenX not done just yet. He just pushes Mimer away.
That was as near a perfect a start as you could get. Super Hot Crew catching up multiple members of Millennium. The problem was once Millennium re-engaged with their full roster, they shredded through the HP bars of Super Hot Crew. They were too far behind, and there is so much damage. KottenX has got a Last Whisper and a Hex Drinker. Take a look at how KottenX realizes something's up. He's peeling around the side because KottenX wants to get on either SELFIE or MrRalleZ. 3-man Shockwave, they all get hit by the Piltover Peacemaker, and KottenX just completely zoning out SELFIE. To be fair, Orianna did his job. He did as best as he could. And because MrRalleZ was focused down as the next target, it just meant that consistent damage over time was not available for Super Hot Crew. Millennium ended up winning the team fight pretty convincingly, considering they got caught out so horribly at the beginning.
So their next Impaler. For the respawn coming here and start off that red buff, which looks like it will be given over to the AD carry, MrRalleZ, who now Bloodthirster, Phantom Dancer, and the Last Whisper. Over on the other side, we do have Bloodthirster, that Last Whisper, Static Shift, but there's a BF Sword and a Pickaxe in there right now for Creaton, so he's working his way nicely into that Infinity Edge. Going to give him a lot of damage, although you have to say if he gets nuked down as quickly as he did in that last one, he was caught as the second man in that Shockwave as that fight started. He needs to be a little bit more careful about his positioning, otherwise they're not going to have anything from those extra items.
Yeah, I agree with you. The one thing that you do have to highlight is how well KottenX has played his Khazix this game. Every team fight, he's managing to find the right targets. He's running amok in the Super Hot Crew composition, and this is probably one of the most effective Khazix games we've seen. He's finally going to get focused down, leaps away.
Leaps away, but gets hooked back in there. He's going to get shockwaved onto, but look at that, he's still alive. All that damage reduction keeping him alive for a hell of a long time, and now the Super Hot Crew, one by one, being ripped to shreds. There's a flash over by Kerp. Mimer, the last man standing, and he will fall as well, and that will be a 5-for-1, an ace for Millennium.
With the amount of damage Millennium have right now, they may even push down towards those Nexus turrets. KottenX got once again caught out. He was in no man's land and took all of the damage from the Super Hot Crew. Survived long enough for Millennium to get their AoE down onto Super Hot Crew. And with the Ryze AoE and the stab from Leona, it just meant Super Hot Crew just got melted by the heat of Millennium. Inhibitor secured. Death time is fairly low on the side of Super Hot Crew, so a wise play by Millennium. They're going to back away, spend the gold that they've earned, probably just keep playing this Baron bait because Super Hot Crew have face checked twice. It's worked out both times. Why not keep doing it?
Plenty of gold to spend as well there. We just saw the totals that they were going back home with, and there is the Infinity Edge actually going to be coming out for Sivir. On the other side, SELFIE did get himself the Void Staff. There's a Locket of the Iron Solari in there. You have to wonder though if those items themselves are going to be enough, because that, and in fact the fight before it, were very one-sided, despite SELFIE catching both the AP and the AD carry there in that Shockwave. The fight just before didn't work their way. The question is now, can they're going to have to pick someone off, and the fact that KottenX survived so long in the middle of the team is a very worrying sign for the Super Hot Crew.
Yeah, it really is. The problem for the Super Hot Crew is their opponents are too tanky. Shyvana gets so much additional stats. She's getting that level 18 points, and Fisher reported out earlier, it's 1,400 gold worth of armor and magic resist that Kevin picks up for free just in Dragon form. Now we'll get to the stats in a second as Millennium, if they throw down a Solar Flare, Super Hot Crew can't do anything about it. Millennium deciding to peel away. They're not going for Baron. If Super Hot Crew don't run immediately, they run at risk of getting caught out. Here come Millennium.
Millennium, Mimer gets himself to the front. There is a talisman pops. Who are they going to go for? Mixer just puts himself at the front there. That's a free kill. KottenX going low. Kevin's fairly low as well, but now that the rest of the team are here, surely they'll be able to pick them off one by one. KottenX is going to get in front pushed onto by Impaler. Oh, almost getting the kill onto him there. Impaler did get that one, and that actually leaves us with a 1-for-1 now with MrRalleZ running for his life, trying to get himself executed. I'm afraid that's not going to happen. Kevin comes around the top. He's now unstoppable at 5-1-16 on Shyvana.
Yeah, at this point in time, I think there's very little that Super Hot Crew can do to make up that massive, massive deficit that they are behind. Millennium maybe saving that ultimate from Sivir just a little bit too late. Had they run a tad quicker, that could have gone somewhat different, but nevertheless, Millennium grabbed themselves 2 kills out of the deal. They only lost KottenX, and now they've got 4-man stack. Look at the vision they've got around this Baron pit. They're just going to keep forcing Super Hot Crew's hands. The one thing that we have seen from Millennium in the past is they tend to struggle in this mid game at closing out the game. When it gets to this point, Millennium, it looks like they're just looking for more kills. They're trying to use Creaton as bait here. And the problem is, Millennium need to turn those kills to objectives. Otherwise, Super Hot Crew could find a perfect fight. Mixer's going to die again.
Mixer is probably going to die. You're not wrong with that one, I think. He tries the play, but Kevin dominating now. And that will be 6-1, 16, and double-figure deaths for Mixer. He's getting closer.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mixer needs 21 deaths to claim that title. He has 10 in this game alone with 2 games remaining. That is not a good position to be in. However, Millennium are in a great position. They have nearly double the kills. They're going to grab themselves a Baron buff. With the stats and the gold, it is a insurmountable advantage for the Super Hot Crew. Mimer's going to go down and is potentially another fight.
Yeah, going out for Mimer. Actually, KottenX is just running riot at the backside. Impaler and SELFIE both going very, very low. SELFIE actually walks into the path of Jree, but KottenX has come back, scanning out the wards, getting rid of the vision. And actually, it doesn't matter with vision or not here. Actually, there's a ward there just on the bottom side at the entry, so they do have vision in this one. But there is the pushover from Jree. The rest of the team will just climb out the Baron pit, pick up another one onto SELFIE, and now they look again to finish off the Baron. Impaler is still waiting. Impaler has flash. He's not going to be quick enough, and he's going to die. Zenith Blade landing onto him. KottenX blows him off.
KottenX, before that Baron started, was actually zoning away both Impaler and SELFIE. SELFIE was forced to use the Shockwave just to defend against this Khazix that is 10, 5, and 10. Millennium with the Baron buff and 3 members of Super Hot Crew down turn their attention to this inhibitor. We see a teleport from Kevin as well as Kerp. This could be the final push.
This could be the final push. Still 25 seconds for Impaler, 16 seconds for SELFIE. Mixer's going to get caught up once again. That's another death. Kill number 11 onto Mixer. There is the first Nexus turret. I think the rest of the Super Hot Crew are just going to sit back and let this one happen. Millennium, despite having a terrible season so far, picking things up here in the last week and picking up the victory over the Super Hot Crew.
That was a very good performance from Millennium. It was chaotic, it was exciting, but it was always Millennium starting the fight. Millennium found the engages that they wanted to that kept the Super Hot Crew shut down. I want to highlight MrRalleZ that game. He went 4-8-7, and even in the games that Super Hot Crew have lost in the past, MrRalleZ had never gone 4-8-7. He has been a shining light for that team, and he just got focused and killed by KottenX and Kevin so many times.
Yeah, to be honest, he got caught out of position on towers. They went straight underneath the tower. I want to move it straight off to the positive though here. KottenX 11-5-10 with his Khazix. He played such an incredible game with it, and that was possibly the closest that we've seen if we look back to Intel Extreme Masters to the way that Insect was playing. You know, always away from his team, always being the annoyance and almost offering that unsafe factor in terms of, you know, where is the bug? Where is he going to come from? Where's he going to dive onto us? And even when he does, he pops his ultimate, you do no damage to it.
Yeah, so the few times you leave him alone, he's going to solo you AD carry when he's got that much damage. And then the few times you try focus him, he just pops his ult, gets that damage reduction. And you've seen 2 fights prior to the last one, he was caught out. KottenX was focused down by 5 members of Super Hot Crew, but it took them so long to kill him that Millennium just grabbed themselves 4 kills of themselves and just melted through the Super Hot Crew entirely.
We should look where that actually leaves these 2 teams now as well. 8-17 is the scoreline that Millennium currently have. They're still bottom of the league from this, but an encouraging win nonetheless. For the Super Hot Crew, definitely not encouraging. 10-16 now they sit in the table.
So, what that means in the big picture, in the grand scheme of things, Super Hot Crew were the team that could break people's hearts. Coming into today, if Super Hot Crew had wins, they could have knocked the likes of Gambit or Roccat into the summer promotion tournament. Because they're 0-2, if Super Hot Crew pick up 1 more win out of their last games, Copenhagen Wolves go 0-4, and if Millennium go 4-0, those 3 teams will be in a tiebreaker to determine who places 6th at the end of the day. And based on the results that we've seen so far, the 3 games, and with Wolves coming up next, we may be 1 step closer to having at least another tiebreaker for 6th place.
I don't know why everyone makes these funny faces when they talk about tiebreakers, because I personally absolutely love them. And we're going to have some. I'm just going to go out there and say, just the way that things are working out is very much looking like we're going to be seeing tiebreakers. Another point from that on Millennium, actually now 3-1 up in the head-to-head. And while that's a great thing, you also have to look at the flip side of it. They've got 8 wins so far, and 3 of them have been against the Super Hot Crew. They've not been able to find them against anything else. And while their season is all but done, this was a good-looking Millennium.
It really was. And I think you have to attest the fact that it was a chaotic game. It was non-stop. I actually have a replay of one of these fights and examples as to why it was so chaotic. Let's pull that clip up onto your screen. Now roll this one out. It's a teleport that comes in just around this 18 minutes. And you see members of Millennium trying to save Creaton. Now Creaton is going to be alive. Thanks to the teleport, Kerp and Kevin are able to scare them away. But now Kerp goes a little bit on his own mission. Gets caught out, and here come the Super Hot crew from the side. I think Millennium need to make sure they avoid those kinds of teleports because it ended up costing them. It's one of the mistakes that they made with that double teleport strategy. And props to Super Hot crew for turning on the members as they engage. They need to be on the same page, and that's something that Millennium needs to look at going forward for the rest of Super Week.
Well, remember that you guys can share plays like that with us by tweeting them to @LOLEsports and using the hashtag LCS Big Plays. We've still got so many great games to come today. So many games which actually can really change how the standings are. And I think none bigger than the Copenhagen Wolves coming up here next. They can completely knock Millennium out of the run.
Yeah, they really can. Because Millennium picked up that win now, they are not entirely out of this game just yet. However, if Millennium go on a similar record with the Copenhagen Wolves and the Copenhagen Wolves win, it means they own a better win-loss ratio, which means Millennium have no chance of playoffs. So there's a lot more riding than just Copenhagen Wolves' gambit. Millennium's hopes as well are resting on the Wolves' shoulders.
Well, before we get to the Copenhagen Wolves gambit game, let's head over to Shox and Deficio, who are standing by with one of the winning players.
Thank you very much, Joe. And indeed, I was starting to miss you on the table here, Creaton, but all jokes aside, very good job from you guys. Still in the running to making it to playoffs. Tell me a little bit about how you went into this game, with what mindset?
So basically, we had only 2 days to prepare. Since it's Super Week started Tuesday, it was really hard. We didn't prepare anything special, but we always knew that we can beat anyone. And sometimes we play really, really good, but sometimes we play sloppy, as you can see. And that's it. Like when I come to the game, I feel like I can win versus anyone. And that's it. Like staying positive.
So do you guys actually believe you can still make the playoffs? Or do you just play now for the confidence or to prepare for relegation?
To be honest, everything can happen, but it's a really small chance. So we just want to make a good showing for fans, show them we didn't give up. Like we're not gonna give the games away just because we are last place or something.
And you guys got a grand applause from the crowd here as well after that victory. Tell me a little bit about how the game went for you guys. Did you watch the Super Hot Cruise game earlier, and did you base your strategy on that, or?
Yes, we watched the game before, but we had our own strategy that used for us on Scream, so we decided to go for it. And I think that strategy works really well against Super Hot Crew because their main playmakers are from bot lane, in my opinion at least. Misga always play over aggressive and try to do stuff, and we just had to punish him.
And then looking also at your pick, of course, playing Sivir. I believe we've only seen you maybe once on it through the entire season. Why did you pick her?
Honestly, I never want to play Sivir, but always Kevin is like, pick Sivir, she's OP. I'm like, no, please. But he always seems to lock her, and I have to play her. Like, what can I do?
Much like Doublelift, who learned to love her as well because it works in a team. One last question about the game. We saw that whenever the fights were pretty chaotic, but if they went very long, drawn out, you guys seem to have the upper hand. Can you tell me a little bit about how a fight goes? Where do you position yourself? Who do you go for?
I think we mainly won this fight because of Sivir Ultimate, because it really gives you so much opportunities. You can back off at the one time and start kiting, then you can go all in again. And we had pretty good calls in team fights. We tried not to split too much until we got fed Khazix. Then he was able to do a lot of stuff by himself. But I think we made some good calls in this game, especially during team fights, and that's it.
And talking about the fed Khazix, of course, KottenX, how do you actually think he's doing, and how is it to play with him now?
It's always when you have the new guy, you are motivated, you start playing more, you want to show that the change that Arani stepped down, because in his opinion, it was the time to step down. And you have to show people that the change is for better, that's it. It's for better. And KottenX played really good, especially on scrims. I feel like on LCS he's still a bit nervous, but he's going there. And soon he's going to perform better, in my opinion.
He's already doing very well for you guys. One final question. Obviously, Aranea stepped down. It was all very sudden that he went, and he's actually visiting today to say kind of goodbye to all of you. How has that been for you guys to see that?
It was really cool to see him again. I saw him actually in the crowd while we played the game. And actually, he kissed me right now. So, as you can see,
he's very good at jumping too. That was very impressive. But thank you very much, Creaton. Congratulations once again. Great win that keeps you guys in the race. And as for us, we need to top off our mana. But when we return, the Copenhagen Wolves and Gambit will fight for a spot in the playoffs. We'll be right back.
Actually, they're going to go in for this one. Kerp going to get shockwave. Actually caught two of them. This could be a decent fight for the Super Hot crew, but actually they're falling quickly. Mimer goes down, and there is a Millennium Bug at the back, taking down Evelynn. MrRalleZ is going to fall as well. That will be a 4-for-2 in favor of Millennium.